Turning back to our top story this morning, Governor Neil Abercrombie's first State of the State address, and it will take place in the House chambers at the state capitol this morning at 10 a.m. Mahealani Richardson is live at the Capitol right now, and she joins us for more. Mahealani, good morning.
Good morning, Kenny. Well, Republicans, Democrats, and political watchers will be watching this speech closely, looking for details on the governor's proposals. And one person who will be watching it is former Democratic Congressman Ed Case. He's also a former state legislator, and he supported Governor Abercrombie during his campaign. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. So what are you going to be looking for specifically in this speech?
Well, I think certainly the tone. I mean, Governor Abercrombie was elected because people believed in him and believed that he offered hope and optimism for the future. And I think he's going to say that we can get through this together, and we need to get through this together. On the other hand, his real challenge is to paint a realistic picture of where we are and what the options are. We can't get everything done in the next, 1 month. He knows that. Everybody else knows that. But I think he just has to lay out the path forward and the challenges and the ways that we overcome those challenges.
Now, the governor has gotten some praise for his department heads and for some of the early decisions that he's made. How do you think he's been doing?
I think he's been doing very well. He's lived up to what he said. It's an open administration. He brought in new faces. He's got a great mix of people that are around him in the cabinet. The appointments he made to the legislature I thought were very good appointments. But he's just had the easiest 7 weeks of his governorship, and now it's time to govern, and now it's time to deal with the legislature, and those are issues that are hotly fought, and so I think the real challenge is going to be the next couple of months.
Yeah, some have noticed that the tone of his rhetoric has changed. Obviously, during a campaign, it's a lot about hope and change, and now he's actually governing. Turning back to your days as a state legislator and watching the Cayetano administration, what was his State of the State like, and how would you compare it to what you think is going to happen today?
Well, Governor Cayetano had the problem of a fiscal crisis that nobody really knew about. Those of us that had been living in the private sector certainly knew it, but state government didn't know it. And so I remember distinctly that his first State of the State was, hey, we need to work on energy and education and the economy, but guess what? We've got a fiscal crisis because it's not just $150 million, it's actually $250 million. Worst crisis since statehood. And of course, the situation we have today in terms of our fiscal status is far worse than that. So we've got to work through that, number one.
Yeah, $700 million, a big difference compared to what Governor Cayetano had to deal with. What about Governor Lingle? How would you compare that State of the State, her last State of the State address, to what you're expecting today?
Well, in some ways she had it easy because during most of her administration, she had a pretty good fiscal situation. Of course, the last couple of years were challenges for her and for the state. It hadn't quite caught it up here as it had on the mainland. So I think her challenge in her last State of the State was just to say, hey, look, things feel pretty good, but we've got to, run a tight ship here. And I think she did a good job of painting that picture as well.
All right. Former Congressman Ed Case, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it this morning.
Thank you.
And again, the congressman saying that the governor has to be realistic, but also inspire hope about the future. Kenny, back to you.